20, 1 through 8, 20 through 26. One day, as he was teaching the people in the temple, proclaiming the good news, the chief priests and the scribes came with the elders and said to him, "Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things? Who is it who gave you this authority?" He answered them, "I will also ask you a question, and you tell me, did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin?" They discussed it with one another, saying, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why did you not believe him?' If we say of human origin, all the people will stone us, for they are convinced that John was a prophet." So they answered that they did not know where it came from. Then Jesus said to them, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things." So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be honest in order to trap him by what he said, and then to hand him over to the jurisdiction and authority of the governor. So they asked him, "Teacher, we know that you are right in what you say and teach, and you show difference to no one, but teach the way of God in accordance with truth. Is it lawful for us to pay tribute to Caesar or not?" But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose head and whose title does it bear?" They said, "Caesar's." And he said to them, "Then give to Caesar the thing that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they were not able in the presence of the people to trap him by what he said. And being amazed by his answer, they became silent. This is the word of the Lord.
So this morning we are looking at lens of Family Feud, and I thought, well, we ought to play some Family Feud. So thank you to everyone who got the text message and everything with the survey for today. And now we're going to see what your results are. But first, I'm going to invite down a couple of families who are going to do a little feuding and see how this goes. We'll figure it out. We like to have fun around here. It's okay. All right, so first I'm going to invite down the Slaymaker family. Come on down. You're the next contestant. I'll step down here. All right, you can have you right over here. Woo, come on down. All right, there you go. You're on the, no, you got to be on this side. I'm putting you off balance. There you go. All right, well, welcome, Slaymakers. Glad to have you. Go ahead and tell me a little about yourself. What's your name?
Brian.
Brian.
Karen, I'm the mom. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Blake.
All right. Well, and where do you hail from?
Berthoud, Colorado.
We'll accept it. All right.
Originally from Johnstown.
There you go. There you go. All right. Okay, so we can't play this game with just one family, so we need a second family. So welcome the Knowlton family. Welcome, welcome. Come on down. So, all right. So let's go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Mike.
All right.
Becca. Opal.
Catherine.
Jolene.
All right. And where do we hail from?
Milliken, Colorado.
All right. We got, it's East versus West here on Church Family Feud. All right. Well, how are we feeling going into this game?
Oh, amazing.
Are you?
We're gonna win!
All right. All right. You ready to do some church trivia?
Yeah, they don't know what's coming.
All right, there we go. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, we surveyed about 100 or so of you all, did our online survey. Appreciate you. And so we're going to find out those results right now in our first round. The first round question is, name something you might find in a church pew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask both teams for their answer, and then whoever gets the highest resulting answer gets to score the point. All right, so if you want to confer for a second, what is something you might find in a church pew? All of you in pews can look around your pew and see what you think it is. All right. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to start over here. We're going to start over here with Slaymakers. Who's got your answer? What is something you might find in a church pew?
A Bible.
A Bible. All right. How do we feel about that answer? Okay. Bible seems like a good answer. Over here, Knowlton's. What is something you might find in a church pew?
Tissues.
Tissues. All right. Somebody's been in our church pews. All right. Well, let me. I've always wanted to say this. Well, survey says. A Bible for 29 and tissues for 15. All right. Good choice. All right, so that's 1 point for the Slaymaker family, but there's 3 more questions left, so you're still in this. All right? All right, question number 2. Name a food you likely see at a church potluck. All right, go ahead and confer for a little bit. The food you might see at a church potluck, delicious food, of course, is the right answer because we pride ourselves on our potlucks around here. We're Methodists, right? We got all the potlucks. I would ask for a clarifying question. Is this like a lunch potluck? Is this like a breakfast potluck? Like, what kind of potluck is it? But all right, we got it. All right, okay. Oh, there's some discontent in the Knowlton family. I can see, but all right, who's giving the answer? You guys get to go first. Jolene, something you might find at a church potluck?
A form of meat coming from the Scott household.
A form of meat coming from the Scott household. That would be me, by the way. I'm like, that's probably a good guess. But over here, who's giving your answer?
And we said ham sandwiches, particularly Virginia's ham sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, Virginia's ham sandwiches. All right, well, let's take a look. Survey says... Pastor Fat Jeremy's Barbecue is number 1 at 37. The ham sandwiches are actually under rolls, so 6. All right. So that's a point for the Knowlton family. All right, going first seems to be the trick on this thing. All right, let's go. We got 2 more. Name something you might do with your hands during worship. Keep it family friendly. Name something you might do with your hands during worship. All right, let's take a minute. You can confer. Think about what you do. A little more discontent. That's okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right. I think you guys get to answer first this time.
Fold your hands.
How do you feel about that answer? Okay. Let's do this one. Catherine?
Picking your nose.
Picking your nose.
That's what I wanted to say.
There you go.
Get over here.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
The funny part, the secret part.
We have to see what the score is first.
Okay. There you go. The secret part about that one is when you do it, I'm the only one that sees you do it. There you go. All right. So name something you do with your hands during worship. Survey says. Fold and clasp your hands for prayer. 39. There we go. Oddly, knitting is on there, though. Love the knitting answer. All right. So that's 2 for the Slaymakers, 1 for the Knowltons. So we got 1 question left. You have the chance to tie it up or just give it all away. All right. Last a warm feeling inside. That's your prize. All right. So finally, what's a common feeling you experience when you leave worship? What's a common feeling you experience when you leave worship? How might you feel when you're done? All right, how are we doing? Gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I think you guys, who's answering first? They are. All right, Knowlton family.
Hey.
Name, what's a common feeling you experience when you leave worship?
It's nap time.
It's nap time. All right, how do we feel about that one? Okay, we got a few people. All right. It's my nap time after we're done. All right. How about others? What's your Slaymakers?
Joy.
Joy. All right, Joy. How do you feel about joy? Yay, applause for Joy. Okay. Well, for our last question, to tie it up or to give it away, what is a common experience you feel after worship? Survey says. Followed by joyful and happy. All right. Well, you all win. We're all winners today. We all get to go home with that nice life feeling. How about a nice round of applause for our contestants? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think I'll stick to pastoring, not game show hosting, but that's all right. Thank you, thank you. It's always fun when people are willing to have fun. So, it was fun watching those answers come in, by the way. I was just like, oh, that's really funny. So, some of you meant to be funny, some of you didn't mean to be funny, and were funny anyway. But Family Feud, so that's kind of a modified version of Family Feud. That's kind of how it goes. Two families back and forth answering questions based on surveys that were done of the public. By the way, I always wondered about this, like where do they do all these surveying? They survey the audience before each taping. So when they say we surveyed the public, they mean we surveyed our audience. So I'm like, where do you get all these survey results? Well, that's where. Just not to ruin your fun. But and then you have to answer questions about it, and two families kind of square off. And when I grew up watching Family Feud, I always assumed that the feud they were talking about was like between the two families, right? And so I was always surprised when the show was basically always two families that didn't even know each other, right? Because how can you feud with somebody you don't know? But I do remember a very, very special episode they had, would have been like somewhere probably in the mid-90s, where they literally had members of the Hatfield family and the McCoy family on the show. And I was like, oh, yes, finally, we'll get to see some family fireworks. And of course, there were none whatsoever because that was so long ago, and they really don't care anymore. And what you realize when you really think about it, the actual feuding that happens during Family Feud, if any happens at all, if there's any kind of fireworks or sparks or anything, it's always within the family itself, right? Much like Arnoldton so ably demonstrated for us today. And yes, I did set them up and ask them to do that. They are a very kind, loving family, and Mike's not going to give away his children. But you played it to a T. Thank you. But that's usually where it is. And it's always really interesting. It's been years, I must confess, since I watched the show, but I remember when I did, it was always, you could always know when you had one person that was very, very serious about what they were doing, and maybe the other members of the family were not quite as serious about what they were doing, you're just like, oh, this is going to get fun in the later rounds, right? Or the best is when somebody on the show like insists they know the answer, insists they've got the best answer, they insist that they listen to them, and of course, it is completely the wrong answer. And it is, you can literally watch these families turn on themselves, right? And there have been episodes at the end where I wondered if they were still going to be speaking to each other by the time it was all over. And that's how things actually tend to work, not only on that show, but in life in general. If we have feuds, hopefully most of us don't have feuds with people, but if we have disagreements, if we feel hurt by somebody, if we develop those kind of negative things, it's usually somebody who's already close to us, right? We can get annoyed with strangers, right? Particularly with how they drive. When we are trying to get somewhere quickly, right? Or something like that. We can get annoyed with folks, but to be really deeply troubled, to be hurt, to really, to feel like the kind of pain or betrayal or something that would lead us to feel like we have almost like a feuding relationship with somebody, then it's going to be somebody close to us. Even in the historical example of the Hatfields and McCoys, those two families were very close to each other. They intermarried with each other before the feuding began, and they probably would not have had as strong a reaction to each other had they not been close in the first place. So oftentimes when we need to think about our lives and our relationships and who it is that we are upset with or angry with, or who might be upset or angry with us, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be somebody close to us. And in fact, it may even be a family member. And where we probably need to invest most of our time in prayer and thought, trying to figure out, how to mend and how to continue to have good and healthy and hopeful relationships with people, it's not often strangers or even that neighbor that we see from time to time. It is those close to us. And that is really the challenge that Jesus is running headlong into the ministry and into the passage for today. So Jesus is being accosted again by the religious leaders of his day. And what we always have to tell ourselves is these are the religious leaders of Jesus' own religion. This is the religion. These are the leaders of the group, of the tribe, of the family that Jesus was born into, his goes back in generation, was raised into. These are his folks. Right? And so when these religious leaders come to take on Jesus and challenge Jesus with what he's doing, this is an inter-family, inter-tribe, inter-religious disagreement that they are having. This is not Jesus fighting with or arguing with somebody outside of his own tradition. They are all from within the same group, all within the same body. And those religious leaders are getting very concerned in this passage about what Jesus is doing. So if you look around the scripture where we are in that kind of Holy Week time. So we are in the post-Palm Sunday, pre-Easter time when there's more and more tension around Jesus and what he's doing. And the religious leaders are realizing they're going to need to get rid of this guy. But the only way that they can figure out to get rid of him, because he is so popular amongst the people that they don't want to make angry, is we need to develop some sort of conflict between him and the Romans, that outside group of people, right? That other group of people that is in Jerusalem at the time. They are the ones that are going to need to get rid of this guy because we can't do it. So they go to him and they start to try to trap him in all these different things. And they go first with this question about John the Baptist. Now, the religious leaders come from this very strictly hierarchical system, right? Where there are people, and those people exist on different levels, and certain people have authority over other people. And so they come to Jesus and they say, by what authority? And really what they're saying is, we're the ones in charge, and we didn't tell you we could do this, so why are you doing it, right? This happens sometimes in the church. People come in and they start to do things that are lovely and helpful and wonderful, and then somebody comes in and they're like, well, who told them they could? And I'm like, I don't know, God. They're being helpful. It's okay. But we wonder, we probably all have these kind of relationships in our lives. You ever served in the armed services, you know that there is a hierarchy and it's clear who's in charge and who has authority and who does not. In the business world, you run into this. In the school system, you run into this. So these religious leaders come to Jesus and they're like, by what authority do you do this? And then, of course, he does what he does, which is never answer a question directly. Jesus almost never answers the questions he's asked, but instead asks a question back. And he asks about John the Baptist. And he asks about John the Baptist, one, because John the Baptist was his friend, and he knew John the Baptist well. Two, John the Baptist was not part of the religious hierarchy. He was a well-known person. He was a prophet. He hung out in the wilderness. He baptized people. He was a folk hero to many people, common people within the life of Jesus' religious tradition and all of that, but he was outside of the hierarchy of the religious order of the day. And yet, not only, if you go all the way back to the beginning of the gospel, not only did the religious leaders allow him to baptize and allow his ministry to come forward, some came out and participated in it. And so he's asked them this very basic question: by whose authority did John do what he did? Was it God or was it human? Right? And they can't answer human because they are the human authorities and they didn't tell him he could do it. And if they say God, then they have to admit that there is somebody higher than they are. And of course, that higher power is everybody's higher power. That higher power is God. And so so they refuse to answer. So Jesus refuses to answer. He refuses to answer. It ends in a stalemate. They go off. Jesus does a few more things. And then they come back and they're like, oh, we got it now. Now we know how to get this guy. Because the other thing that happened right before this passage with Jesus was in the temple and he turns over the table of the money changers. One of my favorite passages in scriptures. Whenever anybody asks, what would Jesus do? Just know, flipping over the table and whipping people is an option. Because Jesus did it. No, don't do that. Don't do it. But he did, and that happened, and he did it in the money changer, in the temple, to the other religious leaders. So he's like, oh, this guy, the religious leaders of the day, the ones that are trying to trap him, are like, oh, wait, this guy's got a thing about money. We should ask him a question about money, but we should ask him a question about Roman money, right? Because maybe we can get him into a tizzy about the Romans, and he'll go take on the Romans and do our work for us. That's what they want. They want him to go and take on the Romans in the same way he took on the temple, get himself in trouble, and the Romans are not going to put up with that. So they come with this question about paying taxes. Jesus, do we pay taxes? And in one of the greatest ever, kind of rhetorical kung fu jujitsu moves, Jesus is like, hey, by the way, do you have a coin? Show me a coin. And one of the religious leaders produces a coin. Now, this is interesting for a lot of reasons, but one of the most interesting reasons why this is interesting is that the Jews and the religious and the temple had their own money. That's what the money changers are doing, is they're giving out the very special temple money. And yet these religious leaders of the day are walking around with Roman money in their pocket, Roman money that has a graven image of Caesar on it, which, oh, by the way, there's a commandment about. A couple of them, actually. And so by Jesus telling him, hey, show me a coin, and they actually do it and produce the coin, he's basically getting them to admit without admitting they broke two commandments. But he leaves that one alone, right? And he very masterfully, once again, does not take the bait. And he's like, that belongs to Caesar. Give to Caesar what's Caesar, whatever, that's fine. That's not what we're worrying about right now. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God. Jesus took on the money changers at the temple because the money changers at the temple were exploiting their own people. Because Jesus takes on the religious leaders at the time because the religious leaders at the time are not bringing God's people together. They are, in fact, dividing God's people. They are, in fact, in cahoots with the occupiers of the day, which is the Romans. And this whole thing, from the money changers on through the conversation with John the Baptist to this conversation right now, is Jesus pointing out over and over again where the leaders of the day are actually doing harm to the people they wish to lead. And Jesus is pointing it out over and over again to remind us of the importance of taking care of one another, especially taking care of those who are close to you, those who are close to you, those whom you have care and affection for and have care and affection for you, and to take care of those folks who are supposed to be on the same team you are on. Jesus is pointing out over and over again where the religious today aren't playing for the team that God wants them to play for. And Jesus is reminding them how important it is to play for the team. Because when things happen, when teams fail, when project fails, when things don't go the way they are supposed to go, it almost never is an outside force. It's almost always a problem within. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the teams that I've been involved with throughout life, especially when I worked in the corporate world before, especially as a young, innocent, early 20s software engineer who thought everybody was great and everybody got along all the time because we're all making such great money. What is there to be mad about? Turns out lots. And while I love all the stock photos, if you like business team, it's always people looking happy and cooperating and collaborating and everything else like that. But if you've ever been involved in a team project, especially a large team project in a corporate environment, you will know it's not always this way. And I remember the first time we went to go introduce ourselves. We were going to help build a new HR system for a company that shall remain nameless. Interject whichever one you want. But we were going to do this whole new multi-million-dollar project for them, totally modernizing their HR system. And I went in and I was talking to all the technical people, and there was this one really grumpy guy who clearly did not want us there, did not want the system updated, was the expert in the old way that things were being done, and was not very interested in learning the new way that things were going to need to be done. And yet he worked for the client, he worked there, he was part of the team because he had information, he had experience that we needed. And we go through that whole first opening meeting, and I'm there, and I'm excited to share all the cool stuff we're going to do, and this is how it's going to work, and all this sort of things. And then as I finish up my little part of the presentation, this gentleman who probably had 30 years of experience on me just unloads, right? Every question, every possible way this could go wrong. What about this? What about that? Every edge case. Well, we've got this special rule over here that you have to take advantage of. And I'm like, I'm sure we can fix it. I'm sure we can put that in. Like, how and when and why is it on the project plan? And it was literally half an hour, almost 45 minutes of question after question after question. And I am just standing there trying my best to answer, looking at my manager who's just smiling on, going, good job. And I'm like, get your butt up here. Why am I? And as we were leaving, my manager looks at me and goes, either that guy has to go or this project's going to fail. And I'm like, they've already spent so much money. They've already spent so much money just getting us here, doing the design work, doing the development work, all that kind of stuff. There's no way they are going to let this project fail because of that one grumpy guy. Because everyone else seemed really excited. And he's like, well, just you wait. Either when we get to the end of this thing, it's either not going to work out and they're going to scrap the whole thing, or that guy's going to be gone. And not to spoil the story, but they scrapped the whole thing. And it was a very hard, because it was so much time and energy that I'd put into this, so I was so excited for them for what they could be. There were so many other disappointed people, but that one person who was not playing for the same team everybody else was, not only was able to get his way, but he took everybody else down with him. We know, if we look at the world, that these things happen. We know that, like, when your favorite band breaks up, it's probably because two members of that band did not get along with each other. We know when big projects fail, or you hear about, this studio that spent $100 million making a movie that's never going to see the light of day because the director and the main actor couldn't get along. We know how important it is for teams to be playing on the same team, to have the same goals, to have the same desires, and we know how catastrophic it can be when we are on a team with somebody who has different goals and different outcomes in mind than we have. Jesus has a team around him. He's got the disciples, which he has shaped and crafted, taught and learned how to be and how to love like he's loving, and is preparing to hand off to them the mission and ministry that needs to come next. Jesus is helping them and shaping them, and you see it throughout all the different things that they can go through. He is shaping his disciples, this group of leaders, into a team that can work and function together. Not always perfectly, not always ideally, not that they're not going to mess up along the way, because they are. But if we go through the end of the book of Luke and into the book of Acts, you see how important it is that they are together, that they work together, that they remember their mission, and their mission is to follow in the way of Jesus and help build the kingdom of God. That's all that Jesus wants. When he spars with the religious leaders, he is pointing out to them over and over again places where they are putting something else as more important than the work that God would have them do. God has work for us. As followers of Christ, we are on a team together. And when the church is united in their work, when we recognize our good desire, when we recognize our need, our call to love God, love neighbor, and love ourselves, and when that is the most important thing we do, and we recognize that everything we do hangs on one of those three things, the church is capable of profound, amazing, meaningful, awesome, life-giving, joyful, kingdom-building work. But when the church, or whatever team you are a part of, chooses some other focus of their time and their attention, oftentimes that's when the unfortunate things happen. God wants us to be on God's team. God came here in the form of Jesus to show us the way that we can do that. And God left us incredibly clear instructions on how we do it well. As a church, as a person, as a family, however it is or wherever it is you are, whoever it is that's close to you, so long as we are focused on loving God in all the ways we can with all our heart and mind and soul, loving and serving our neighbors, and loving and caring for ourselves, then we can be assured we are on God's team. It does not mean we'll be perfect. It does not mean everything's going to work the way that we think it should. It doesn't mean we aren't going to disagree from time to time and think we have a better answer to the question than the person sitting next to us. But there is a way of disagreeing in love. There is a way of coming together as a team even when you don't always get your way. And when we do that, and we focus on God's kingdom and the work that he has given us, amazing, life-giving things happen. Despite the religious leaders and their other priorities, Jesus perseveres and the disciples persevere, and we get to be here today because in all the intervening centuries between Jesus' time and now, Christians have chosen time and time again, usually after we mess up something fierce, to refocus our time, our energy, and our attention on the critical mission we've been given. So go as today. Remember, you are loved by God, you are on God's team, and we are here to love God, love our neighbor, and love ourselves.